Good evening. I'm Robert Floyd, Southampton Town Moderator, and tonight we're going to have the Town Moderator 2021 Annual Town Meeting Warrant Article Information Session. There'll be no debates, no voting tonight. Essentially, myself and Deputy Moderator Carl Keener and Ed Gibson, Town Administrator, will be taking turns reading all the 43 articles. The motions are shorter on the warrant. So we believe we're live. I will continue. Town of Southampton warrant for the annual town meeting, June 12, 2021. It's going to be held outdoors in the same field that it was held last year, and we're rooting for nice weather. Greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed, notify, and warn the inhabitants of the precincts of the town of Southampton, County of Hampshire, qualified to vote in elections and town affairs to meet at the Labrie Field, Strong Road, Southampton, Massachusetts, on Saturday, June 12th, 2021 at 9:00 a.m. Awards and certificates. We have categories for the articles. Article 1, presentation of certificates. To see if the town will vote to hear presentation of state certificates or take any action related thereto. General bylaw amendments. Article 2, amendment to Article 3, Select Board General Bylaw. To see if the town will vote to change the town bylaws to Article 3, Select Board, by amending the existing language as noted below. Deleting existing language was a strike through, and with adding new language shown in boldface text, which reads as follows. By the way, the articles themselves will not need to be read during the town meeting, as we're doing this tonight, and it's on the town website and various other media sources. And when each of you come to attend the annual town meeting, you'll be handed paperwork which will include the articles, the motions, and more information, the summaries. Article 3, Select Board, old, Section 7. The Board of Selectmen shall consist of 5 members. To change the existing 3-member board, the election shall take place as follows. The first year at the annual town election, 2 members will be elected for 3 years and 1 member for 2 years. Then adding 2 members at the present 3-member board. Re-election then to be for 3-year terms or the balance of any unexposed terms in case of a vacancy. Proposed change. Section 1, old Section 7. The Select Board shall consist of 5 members, each elected to 3 years, staggered terms during town elections. Re-election will be for 3-year terms or the balance of any term created by a vacancy, resignation. Section 1. The Select Board shall have the general direction and management of the property of the town affecting the interests or welfare of the town, except as otherwise provided by law or by these bylaws. Proposed change, Section 2, old Section 1. The Select Board shall have the authority to direct and manage the property of the town so as to promote and maintain the general well-being of the town, except as otherwise provided by law or by these bylaws. No member of the Select Board may act on their own or engage in any business of the town without authorization from the full Select Board. Section 2. The Select Board shall have the authority to prosecute and defend in legal controversy which may arise involving the town, and shall act as agents and officers of the town to appoint or employ a town council for the town and the various officers and boards thereof, and to fix the compensation. This shall not apply to such suits as are within the scope and duties of the tax collector. Proposed change. The Select Board shall have the authority to prosecute and or defend any legal controversy involving the town. As agents and officers of the town, the Select Board may appoint and or employ a counsel for the town and its various officers and boards. The Select Board shall also have the authority to determine the compensation for the town council, This shall not apply to such matters that are within the scope and duties of the tax collector. Section 3, the Board of Selectmen shall appoint a town administrator for a period of time to be determined within contractual terms, but not more than 3 years per contract. The town administrator shall not hold an elective office in Southampton town government. Section 4, old Section 3, proposed change. The Select Board shall appoint a town administrator for a period of time to be determined within contractual terms, but not more than 3 years per contract. The town administrator shall not hold an elective office in Southampton town government. Section 4, the Selectmen shall appoint a chief of police as such other police officers as may be necessary, and such other police officers may be necessary, and make suitable regulations governing the police department. Proposed change, Section 5, old Section 4. The Select Board shall appoint and may remove chief of police and such other police officers as may be necessary, and make suitable regulations governing the police department. A fire chief and other fire department personnel as may be necessary, make suitable regulations governing the fire department. A highway superintendent and such highway department personnel as may be necessary, and make suitable regulations governing the highway department. A town accountant and other such accounting department personnel as may be necessary, and make suitable regulations governing the accountant department. Proposed addition. The Select Board shall appoint and may remove, in accordance with any applicable provision of law, qualified members of committees, boards, commissions, councils, groups, not otherwise elected by vote in town elections. Section 5, the Board of Selectmen is authorized to sell and otherwise dispose of any equipment or material in the hands of any department which is deemed by said department to be obsolete and of no further use by the town. The Selectmen shall determine if the equipment or material is sufficient value to sell by competitive bid or auction. Notices shall be posted in 5 public places and at least once in a daily newspaper of general circulation, with the time and place of such sale, with the description listing of articles involved, at least 2 weeks prior thereto. The Selectmen may reject any and all bids which they deem inadequate and are not in the best interest of the town thereto. Proposed changes, Section 7, old Section 5. The Select Board is authorized to sell and otherwise dispose of any equipment or material sold by any department, and that is deemed by said department to be obsolete and of no further use by the town. The Select Board shall determine if the equipment or material is of sufficient value to sell by competitive bid or auction. At least 2 weeks in advance of any competitive bid or auction, notices including a descriptive listing of the articles available and the time and place of such sale shall be posted in 6 public places, including your town website, and at least once in a daily newspaper of general circulation. The Select Board may reject all bids determined to be inadequate or not in the best interest of the town. Proceeds from the sale of any equipment or materials are deposited into the general fund. Section 6. Unless otherwise provided by a vote of town meeting, the Board of Selectmen or procurement officer designated pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 30B, is authorized to enter into any contract for the exercise of the town's corporate powers or such terms and conditions as are deemed appropriate. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the Board of Selectmen or procurement officer shall not contract for any purpose or any terms or under any conditions inconsistent with any applicable provisions of any general law. Proposed change. Section 806. Unless otherwise provided by a vote of town meeting, the select board or its designee pursuant to general law, chapter 30B, is authorized to enter into any contract for the exercise of the town's corporate powers on such terms and conditions as are deemed appropriate. The select board or its designee shall not contract for any purpose or any terms or under any conditions inconsistent with any applicable provisions of any general law. Section 9, moved from Article 5, General Government. The Select Board is authorized to close temporarily or cause to be closed temporarily any street or highway in an impending listing emergency or for any lawful assemblage or procession, provided there is reasonable justification for closing of such street. Article 3, amendment to Article 7, General Government, General Bylaw. To see if the town will vote to change the town bylaws, Article 7, General Government, by amending the existing language as noted below, deleting existing language with a strike through, and adding new language shown in boldface text, which reads as follows. Article 7, General Government, proposed change, Section 1 below, move to Select Board. Article 3, Section 1, the Selectmen are authorized to close temporarily or cause to be closed temporarily any street or highway in an impending or an existing emergency or for any lawful assemblage or procession, provided there is reasonable justification for closing of such street. Section 2, no person shall coast on or access any public sidewalk or street of the town, except at such time and in such places as may from time to time be designated by the Select Board. Taking a break. Have we ever determined what coast means?
I believe it was sledding.
Okay. Delete Section 2. Section 3, an annual state audit shall be made of the books and records of the town. Proposed rendering, reordering. Section 1, teamwork. The town shall each fiscal year fund through taxation and hire an independent third-party accounting firm to perform an annual audit of the financial records of the town and report its findings to the town. Such report to be made public within 30 days of its completion. Section 2, no officer or board of the town shall make any contract on behalf of the town, the execution of which shall necessarily extend beyond 1 year from the date thereof, unless specific authority to do so has been given by the vote of the town or otherwise permitted by law. Section 3, every officer in charge of the department shall annually or on before April 30th transmit to the Select Board or town clerk a report containing a statement of the acts and doings of his/her department for the past financial year, to be printed in the annual report as the Selectmen deem expedient. Proposed change. Every officer in charge of the department shall annually or on before March 1st transmit to the Select Board a written report containing a description of activities and accomplishments of his/her department for the past financial year, to be printed in the annual report and distributed at least 14 days prior to the annual town meeting. Proposed change, move to licenses, Section 6. The Selectmen may license suitable persons to be collectors of dealers in or keepers of shop for the purpose sale or barter of junk, old metal, or secondhand articles, and no such person shall be a dealer or keeper of shop as aforesaid without such a license. Section 4 of Section 7. These bylaws may be altered or amended at any annual or special town meeting, an article or articles for such purpose having been inserted in a warrant for such meeting, specifying the alteration or amendment proposed. Proposed addition. Section 5. All public Offices in town may remain closed on Saturdays as provided by General Law, Chapter 41, Section 110A. Article 4, amendment to Article 7, restriction and issuance of local licenses or permits, general bylaw. The city of the town will vote to change the town's bylaws, Section 8, Article 8, Section 1E, and Section 2, restrictions and issuance of local license and permits by amending the existing language as noted below, deleting existing language in a strike-through, and with adding new language shown in boldface text, which reads as follows. Article 8, restrictions on issuance of strike-through. Local licenses or permits. Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 57, strike through. Following to be deleted. Delete E, this is all strike through. No demolition permit for a building which is whole or in part 100 years or more old and are listed at the Massachusetts Cultural Resource Inventory System for Southampton shall be issued without following the provisions of Article 37, the presentation of historically significant buildings. If a building is of unknown age, it shall be assumed that the building is over 100 years old for the purpose of this bylaw. Proposed change. New Section 2, insert, moved from general government. The select board may license suitable persons to be collectors of, dealers in, or keepers of a shop for the purchase, sale, or barter of junk, old metal, or secondhand articles, and no such person shall be a dealer or keeper of a shop without such a license. Section 3, old Section 2. This bylaw shall not apply to the following licenses or permits: open burning, bicycle permits, sales of articles for charitable purposes, children work permits, clubs, associations dispensing food or beverage license, dog licenses, fishing, hunting, trapping licenses, marriage licenses, theatrical events or public exhibition permits. Seeing as how we have 43 articles, I recommend strongly that everyone reserve the next day, Sunday morning, for a continuance of the annual town meeting. At noon, we will automatically vote to decide whether or not to adjourn to Sunday morning, and or anyone before that time or after can make a motion to adjourn to a time certain, namely the next day, Sunday, June 13th, 9 o'clock. And of course, we'll vote on that and we'll debate, we'll discuss it, but just want everybody to know. Article 5, amendment to Article 12, overnight parking general bylaw. The city of the town will vote to change the town bylaws, Article 22, overnight parking, by amending the existing language as noted below, deleting existing language with a strike through, and with adding new language shown in boldface text, which reads as follows. Article 12, overnight parking. Consistent with the traffic control policy adopted by the Select Board on November 2nd, 2017, the following shall be in effect. Section 1, it shall be unlawful for any vehicle to be parked overnight or during a daytime snowstorm on any street of the town from November 1 to April 1 of each year. Proposed change, Section 1, it shall be unlawful for any vehicle to be parked overnight 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. at any time or during a snowstorm on any street of the town from November 1 to March 31 of each year, including storms that occur outside of that specified time frame. The highway superintendent or his designee may issue a parking ban as required during inclement weather and notify the public of the same. Section 2, any person who violates this bylaw shall be liable to a penalty of $20 for each violation. Proposed addition, Section 2, The chief of police or his designee is hereby authorized to prohibit parking temporarily where it was otherwise allowed, or allow parking temporarily where it is otherwise prohibited on any street or highway or part thereof, or parking lots maintained by the town of Southampton in an impending or an existing emergency, or for a lawful assembly or demonstration or procession. Vehicles parked in places where parking is prohibited may be towed under the direction of an officer. However, such officer shall make reasonable efforts to notify the owner of such vehicle to have such vehicle moved prior to the vehicle being towed. Proposed change, Section 3, Old Section 2. Any person who violates this bylaw shall be liable for a $50 fine for each violation or any amount according to rate set by the select board or town meeting. Article 6, amendment to Article 17, fire lanes and fire hydrants general bylaw. To see if the town will vote to change the town's bylaws, Article 17, by amending the existing language as noted below, deleting existing language with a strike through and with adding new language shown in boldface text, which reads as follows. Article 17, fire lanes and fire hydrants, Section 1. It shall be unlawful for any vehicle to be left unattended within the limits of private ways designated as fire lanes, furnishing means of access for fire apparatus to any building. Proposed change, Section 1. No person shall park or leave a vehicle unattended within or obstructing access to a fire lane. Proposed addition, Section 2. Vehicles left unattended in fire lanes in violation of this bylaw shall be towed under the direction of the police department at the owner's expense. Section 3. Any person who violates this bylaw shall be liable to a penalty of $50 for each violation. Proposed change, any person who violates this bylaw shall be subject to a fine for each violation according to the rates established by the select board or town meeting. See fee/penalty schedule. Proposed addition, consolidating Article 17 and 39. Section 4, it shall be unlawful for any persons to willfully open or tamper with any fire hydrant or to cause damage and to allow water to flow on any public or private property in the town of Southampton unless previously authorized to do so by the water department or fire chief. Each unauthorized opening, tampering of a hydrant shall constitute a separate offense. Penalty shall not exceed $200 per offense. Proposed addition, it shall be unlawful for any person to park a vehicle within 10 feet from a fire hydrant, whether on a public or private way or location. Section 6, proposed addition. Any resident who has a fire hydrant on his or her property and any business that has a fire hydrant on or adjacent to their business is responsible for clearing an area of snow at least 3 feet from around the hydrant within 24 hours after a snowstorm. Article 7, amendment to Article 18, Council and Aging General Bylaw. To see if the town will vote to change the town's bylaw, Article 18, by amending the existing language as noted below, deleting existing language with a strike through and with adding new language shown in boldface text, which reads as follows. Article 18, Council on Aging. Section 1, there is hereby established a Council on Aging consisting of 7 persons appointed by the Select Board from the voters and residents of the town. Proposed change, Section 1, there is hereby established a Council on Aging and an advisory board consisting of 7 members and 2 alternates, selected from among town residents and appointed by the Select Board to serve designated staggered terms. Terms shall be for 3 years. Proposed change, Section 2, delete. Section 2, strike through. The chair of the Council on Aging shall be elected annually by said council by vote of its membership. Proposed change, Section 3, delete. Section 3, strike through. Appointees to the Council of Aging shall hold office until their successors are designated. Section 2, old Section 4. The Council on Aging Director is hereby and ultimately responsible to the appointing authority, the Select Board. The Select Board has the power to hire, evaluate, and or terminate a director, and may delegate some or all of these functions to the town administrator. The director has responsibility for the hiring and supervision of paid staff and unpaid volunteers. Section 5, it shall be the duty of the Council on Aging to carry out programs designated to meet problems of the aging in coordination with programs of the Department of Elder Affairs pursuant to Chapter 40, Section 8B of Mass General Law. Proposed change. Section 3, both Section 5 expanded, shall be the duty of the Council on Aging to carry out programs designated to meet the needs of aging residents 60 plus years of age in coordination with programs of the Department of Elder Affairs pursuant to Chapter 40, Section 8B of the Massachusetts General Law. Section 6, move to Section 1. The COA Board serves as an advisory board. Article 8, amendment to Article 19, sidewalk clearing general bylaw. To see if the town will vote to change the town bylaws, Article 19, by amending the existing languages noted below, deleting existing languages with a strike through, and with adding new language shown in boldface text, which reads as follows. Article 19, sidewalk clearing. Section 1, property owners whose property abuts sidewalks in Southampton shall be required to clear such sidewalks of ice and snow during the winter months thereafter. Such clearing of ice and snow to complete within 24 hours after a storm. Each day shall be a separate violation, resulting in a fine of $10 per day. Proposed change, Section 1, property owners whose property abuts sidewalks in Southampton shall be required to clear such sidewalks of ice and snow during the winter months. Such cleaning of ice and snow must be completed within 24 hours after the storm ends. If said property is not cleared, fines will be assessed according to the rate set by the Select Board at town meeting. See fee/penalty schedule. When removing snow and ice, consideration must be given to not worsening the problem for adjacent property owners. Proposed addition, Section 2, senior citizens with age-related limitations and individuals with documented disabilities who are physically unable to clear walkways must make alternate arrangements with caregivers, family, or neighbors to clear the walkways within 24 hours. I'm going to take a break and ask Carl Keena, come sit here.
Oh, I need to move over.
I'll be back.
You got longer legs than I do. Article 9, amendment to Article 23, Community Preservation General Bylaw. To see if the town will vote to change the town bylaws, Article 33, by amending existing language as noted below, deleting existing language with a strike through, and with adding new language shown in boldface text, which reads as follows. Article 33. Section 1, there is hereby established a Community Preservation Committee consisting of 9 voting members pursuant to the provisions of GLC 44B. The composition of the committee, the appointing authority, and the term of office for the committee members shall be as follows. 1, one member of the Conservation Commission designated by the Commission. 2, one member of the Historical Commission as designated by the Commission. 3, one member of the Planning Board as designated by the Board. 4, Highway Superintendent whose responsibilities include the duties of the Board of Park Commissioners established under GLC 45, Section 2, or his designee. 5, one member of the Housing Authority as designated by the authority. 6, one member of the Finance Committee as designated by the committee. And 7, one member of the Board of Selectmen as designated by the Board of Selectmen. 8, 2 members at large to be appointed initially by the Board of Selectmen and starting with the 2002 annual town election to be thereafter elected for a term of 3 years. Each member of the committee shall serve for a term of 3 years or until the person no longer serves in the position or on the board or committee as set forth above, whichever is earlier. Should any of the officers and commissions, boards, or committees who have appointing authority under this bylaw be no longer in existence for whatever reason, the Board of Selectmen shall appoint a suitable person to serve in their place. Any member of the committee may be removed for a cause by their respective appointing authority after hearing. Proposed change. Section 1. There is hereby established a Community Preservation Commission consisting of 9 voting members pursuant to the provision of GLC 44B. The composition of the committee, the appointing authority, and the term of office for the committee members shall be as follows. 1, a member of the Conservation Commission as designated by the Conservation Commission. 1, a member of the Historical Commission as designated by the Historical Commission. 1, a member of the Planning Board as designated by the Planning Board. 2, Highway Superintendent whose responsibilities include the duties of the Park Commissioner established under GLC 45, Section 2. 3, a member of the Housing Authority as designated by the Housing Authority. 4, a member of the Finance Committee as designated by the Finance Committee. 5, a member of the Select Board as designated by the Select Board. 6, 2 members at large elected for a term of 3 years. Section 2, duties. The Community Preservation Commission shall study the needs, possibilities, and resources of the town regarding community preservation. The committee shall consult with existing municipal boards, including Conservation Commission, Historical Commission, the Planning Board, the Department of Public Works, the Housing Authority, or persons acting in those capacities or performing like duties. In conducting such studies as part of its study, the committee shall hold 1 annual public informational hearing or more at its discretion on the needs, possibilities, and resources of the town regarding community preservation possibilities and resources. Notice of which shall be posted, public and published for each of 2 weeks preceding a hearing in a newspaper of general circulation in the town. The Community Preservation Commission shall make recommendations to the town meeting for the acquisition, creation, and preservation of open space, for the acquisition and preservation of historic resources, for the acquisition, creation, and preservation of land for recreational use, for the creation, preservation, and support of community housing, and for rehabilitation or restoration of such open space, historic resources, land for recreational use and community housing that is acquired or created as provided in this section. With respect to community housing, the Community Preservation Commission shall recommend, wherever possible, the reuse of existing buildings or construction of new building on previously developed sites. 3, the Community Preservation Commission may include in its recommendation to the town meeting a recommendation to set aside for later spending funds for specific purposes that are consistent with community preservation, but for which sufficient revenues are not available in the Community Preservation Fund to accomplish that specific purpose, or to set aside for later spending funds for general purposes that are consistent with the community preservation. 4, in every fiscal year, the Community Preservation Commission must recommend either that the legislative body spend or set aside for later spending not less than 10% of the annual revenues of the Community Preservation Fund, or A, open space, not including land for recreational use, B, historic resources, and C, community housing. Proposed change. Section 2, the Community Preservation Committee shall study the needs, possibilities, and resources of the town in regarding following areas as designated by GL 44B, preservation of open space, creation and preservation or rehabilitation of land for recreational use, the acquisition and preservation of historical resources, and preservation and support for community housing. Proposed addition, Section 3. The Community Preservation Committee shall receive funding from a surcharge on local taxes and a yearly matching grant from an earmarked state fund under the supervision of the State Department of Revenue. Funds received are to be used in the designated areas and, while are under supervision of the Community Preservation Committee, may not be spent without a majority vote at the town meeting. Funds not spent each year remain with the community preservation account and do not revert to the town. Proposed addition, Section 4. The Community Preservation Committee shall hold one annual public informational hearing to inform the town on the activities of the Community Preservation Committee and to receive project proposals accompanied by comparative cost estimates. A notice of the hearing shall be posted and published 2 weeks prior to said hearing. Boards, commissions, committees of the town, and individuals are eligible to submit proposals at any time during the year. Section 3, requirement for a quorum and cost estimates. The Community Preservation Committee shall comply with provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GL C39, Section 23B. The committee shall not meet or conduct business without the presence of a majority of the members of the community preservation. The Community Preservation Committee shall approve its actions by majority vote. Recommendations to the town meeting shall include the committee's anticipated costs. Proposed change. Section 5, Old 3. The Community Preservation Committee shall comply with the provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GLC 30A, Section 18 to 25. The committee shall not meet to conduct business without presence of a majority of its members. A majority vote is needed to approve all actions, including forwarding projects to a town meeting. Proposed change, Section 6. All projects forwarded to a town meeting for final approval shall include the cost that will be determined by the town's approved procurement process. Section 7, Old Section 4. This bylaw may be amended from time to time by a majority vote of town meeting consistent with the provisions of GLC 44B. Section 8, severability in case any section, paragraph, or part of this bylaw be for any reason declared invalid or unconstitutional by any court. Every other section, paragraph, or part shall continue in full force and effect. Section 9, effective date, provided that the Community Preservation Act is accepted at the 2001 annual town election. This bylaw shall take effect upon approval by the Attorney of the Commonwealth, and after all requirements of GLC 40, Section 32 have been met. Each appointing authority shall have 30 days after approval by the Attorney General to make their initial appointments or to take any other action. Article 10, amendment to Article 30, Wetlands Protection General Bylaw. To see if the town will vote to change the town bylaws, Article 30, Section 1 and Section 12, by amending the existing language as noted below. Deleting existing language with a strike through with added new language shown in boldface text, which reads as follows. 5.1, Commission Quorum. More than half the members of the Commission in strikeout office must be presented to conduct business and to hold a public meeting. 12, Enforcement Order WPA Form 9. No person shall remove, fill, dredge, build upon, degrade, or otherwise alter resource areas protected by this bylaw, or cause, suffer, or allow such activity, or leave in place unauthorized fill or otherwise fail to restore illegally altered land to its original condition, or fail to comply with a permit or enforcement order, WPA Form 9, issued pursuant to this bylaw. The filing of a permit application or request for determination of applicability, RDA, shall constitute the consent of the owner and grant the authority for the commission and its agents with proper identification to enter upon privately owned land for the purpose of performing their duties under this bylaw. The commission may make or cause to be made such examinations, surveys, or sampling as the commission deems reasonable and necessary, subject to the laws of the United States and the Commonwealth. The commission shall have the authority to enforce this bylaw and permits issued thereunder by violation notices, non-criminal citations under MGL Chapter 40, Section 21D, administrative orders, and civil and criminal court actions. Any person who violates provisions of this bylaw may be ordered to restore the property to its original condition and or take other action deemed reasonable and necessary to remedy such violation, or may be fined, or both. Any person who violates any provision of this bylaw may be subject to a fine in the amount of $300 per day per offense. Upon request of the commission, the select board may direct the town council to take legal action for enforcement under civil law. Upon request of the commission, the chief of police may take legal action for enforcement under criminal law. Town boards and officers, including any police officer or other officer having police powers, shall have authority to assist the commission in enforcement. Any person who violates any provision of this bylaw, permits or enforcement orders issued thereunder shall be served with a notice of violation enumerating the alleged violations. If thereunder shall be served, if after 10 business days the commission has not received what it deems to be either A, sufficient evidence demonstrating that no violation has occurred, or B, a filing that will remove the violations along with the evidence that sufficient progress is being made to correct the violation, then the violator shall be punished by a fine, strikeout, per offense of $300 a day per offense, beginning 10 business days after the date of the notice of violation. Each day or portion thereof during which a violation continues or unauthorized fill or other alteration remains in place shall constitute a separate offense, and each provision of the bylaw, permits, or enforcement order violated shall constitute a separate offense. Strikeout. In addition to any fine, the town shall be entitled to reimbursement for all expenses, including legal fees incurred in processing said violation, either civilly or criminally. Zoning bylaw amendments. Article 11. Amend zoning bylaw / amendment of zoning map bylaw section 3B by amending the map. To see if the town will vote to amend the town of Southampton zoning bylaw map referenced in section 3B of the town of Southampton zoning bylaws, to redesignating 2 certain parcels of land in their entirety from the current zoning of resident village RV to the zone of commercial village CV, identified as said real estate in the town of Southampton, located at 173 and 175 College Highway in the county of in the county of Hampshire in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, as shown on the Assessor's Map 24, Parcel 2, Parcel 57. The subject property consists of 1.6 acres, 1.6 plus acres, plus or minus acres in the land of land in Southampton, as described in a deed recorded in the Hampshire County Registry of Deeds in Book 13243, page 133. Said land is currently assessed to American Dream Reality, LLC. Article 12, amendment to section 14 of the zoning stormwater bylaw. To see if the town will vote to amend the town zoning bylaw by deleting section 14 of the zoning bylaw in its entirety and inserting in the town's general bylaw a new stormwater management and erosion and sediment control bylaw as follows. Section 14, excuse me, Section 14, Town of Southampton, stormwater management and erosion and sediment control. A, purpose and authority. B, definitions. C, applicability. D, exemptions. E, administration. F, enforcement and penalties. G, surety. H, final reports. I, certificate of completion. And J, severability. A, purpose and authority. Purpose. The purpose of this bylaw is to better manage land development in order to protect, maintain, and enhance the public health, safety, and general welfare of the citizens of Southampton by establishing minimum requirements and procedures to control the adverse impacts associated with stormwater runoff. B, the proper management of stormwater runoff will meet the following objectives. 1, reduce the adverse water quality impacts of stormwater discharge to rivers, lakes, reservoirs, and streams in order to attain federal water quality standards. 2, prevent discharge of pollution, including including hazardous chemicals into stormwater runoff. Minimize the volume and rate of stormwater that is discharged to rivers, streams, reservoirs, lakes, and combined sewers that flows from any site during and following development. 4, prevent erosion, sedimentation from land development, and reduce stream channel erosion caused by increased runoff. 5, provide for the recharge of groundwater aquifers and maintain the base flow of streams. 6, provide stormwater facilities that are attractive and maintain the natural integrity of the environment and are designed to protect public safety. 7, maintain and reduce pre-development runoff characteristics after development to the maximum extent feasible. 8, minimize damage to public and private property from flooding. 9, to ensure that these management controls are properly maintained. C, excuse me, is that a strikeout?
No.
It isn't. This bylaw is associated, and its associated regulations are also intended to bring the town of Southampton into compliance with requirements in the United States Environmental Protection Agency National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, MPDES, general permit for stormwater discharges from small municipal separate storm sewer systems in Massachusetts. Massachusetts small MS4 general permit. 2, authority. The Southampton Planning Board will serve as the stormwater authority and shall administer, implement, and enforce this bylaw. Any powers granted to or duties imposed upon the planning board hereunder shall be delegated in writing by the planning board to any town official, including but not limited to the highway superintendent. Definitions. The following definitions describe the meaning of the terms used in this bylaw. Alter. Alter is any activity that will measurably change the ability of ground surface area to absorb water or will change existing surface drainage patterns. Alter may be similarly represented as alteration of drainage characteristics and conducting land disturbance activities. Adverse impact means any deleterious effect on waters or wetlands, including their quality, quantity, surface area, species composition, aesthetics, or usefulness for human or natural uses, which are or may be potentially harmful or injurious to human health, welfare, safety, or property, to biological productivity, diversity, or stability, or which unreasonably interfere with the enjoyment of life or property, including outdoor recreation. Agricultural activity. Producing or raising one or more of the following agricultural commodities for commercial purposes. 1, animals, including but not limited to livestock, poultry, and bees. 2, fruits, vegetables, berries, nuts, maple sap, and other foods for human consumption. And 3, feed, seed, forage, tobacco, flowers, sod, nursery or greenhouse products, and ornamental plants or shrubs. And further defined by the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and its implementing regulations. Authorized enforcement agency is the Southampton Planning Board, including its agents designated to enforce this bylaw. Best management practices, BMPs, are structural or biological devices that temporarily store or treat stormwater runoff to reduce flooding, remove pollutants, provide other amenities. They can also be non-structural practices that reduce pollutants at their source BMPs are described in the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook described below. Construction activity is disturbance of ground by removal of vegetative surface cover or topsoil, grading, excavation, clearing, and/or filling. Design storm is a rainfall event of specific size and return frequency that is used to calculate the runoff volume and peak discharge rate to a BMP. Detention is the temporary storage of storm runoff in a BMP, which is used to control peak discharge rates and which provides gravity settling of pollutants. Disturbance is any land clearing, grading, bulldozing, digging, or similar activities. Erosion is the wearing away of the land surface by natural or artificial forces such as wind, water, ice, gravity, or vehicle traffic, and subsequent detachment and transportation of soil particles. Erosion and Sediment Control Plan is a document containing narrative, drawings, and details developed by a qualified professional engineer, PE, or a certified professional in erosion and sedimentation control, a CPESC, that includes best management practices or equivalent measures designed to control surface runoff, erosion, and sedimentation during construction and construction-related land disturbance activities. Flooding is a local and temporary inundation or rise in the surface of a body of water that it covers land not usually underwater. Forest cutting plan is a plan for the cutting of trees on forest land that is prepared and submitted in accordance with MGL's Chapter 132, Section 40 to 46A. Forest cutting plan requires approval by a service forester of the Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation as provided under 302 CMR 16. Grading means changing the level or shape of ground surfaces. Groundwater is all water beneath any land surface, including water in the soil and bedrock beneath water bodies, but not including water in man-made structures. Impervious surface is any material or structure on or above the ground that prevents water from infiltrating through the underlying soil. Impervious surface is defined to include, but not limited to, paved parking lots, rooftops, driveways, patios, and paved roads. Infiltration is the downward movement of water from the surface to the subsoil. Low impact development is a development approach that seeks to mimic, or in the case of redevelopment, restore/recreate a site's pre-development hydrology through protection of on-site natural features and environmentally sensitive site design that limits impervious areas, preserves open space, and uses decentralized small-scale facilities to capture and manage rainfall or snow melt close to where it falls. These small-scale facilities serve to slow, absorb, and treat flow and include bioretention areas, grass swales, porous pavements, cisterns, and green roofs and walls. Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook and Stormwater Standards is the guidance issued by Mass DEP and as amended that coordinates the requirements prescribed by state regulations promulgated under the authority of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, GLC Chapter 131 and 40, and Massachusetts Clean Water Act, GLC General Law, Chapter 21, Section 23 to 56, The handbook addresses stormwater impacts through implementation of performance standards to promote increased stormwater discharge and treatment of runoff from polluting land uses, low impact development, LID.
Excuse me. There's this reason.
Techniques, pollutions, low impact development, LID. Techniques, pollution prevention, the removal of illicit discharges to stormwater management systems, and improved operation and maintenance of stormwater best management practices, BMPs. Mass DEP applies the stormwater management standards pursuant to its authority under the Wetlands Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Section 40, and Massachusetts Clean Water Act, MGL, Chapter 21, Sections 26 to 53. Revised stormwater management standards have been incorporated in the Wetlands Protection Act regulations, 310 CMR 10.05 6K, and the Water Quality Certification Regulations, 314 CMR 9.06 6, Section A. New development is any construction activities or land alteration resulting in total disturbance greater than 40,000 square feet, or activities that are part of a larger common plan of development disturbing greater than 40,000 square feet on an area that has not been previously developed to include impervious cover. Non-porous source pollution is pollution from any diffuse sources caused by rainfall or snowmelt moving over and through the ground. As the runoff moves, it picks up and carries away material and human-made pollutants, finally depositing them into the water resource areas. Operation and maintenance plan is a plan that defines the functional, financial, and organizational mechanisms for the ongoing operation and maintenance of a stormwater management system to ensure that it continues to function as designed. Owner is the person with legal or equitable interest in a property. Peak discharge is the maximum instantaneous rate of flow during a storm, usually in reference to a specific designed storm event. Person is any individual, group of individuals or entity, including an association, partnership, corporation, company, business organization, trust, estate, administrative agency, public or quasi-public corporation or body, the Commonwealth or political subdivision thereof. Point source is any discernible, confined, and discrete conveyance, including but not limited to any pipe, ditch, channel, tunnel, conduit, well, discrete fissure, or container from which pollutants are or may be discharged. Pollutant is any element of property or sewage, agricultural, industrial, or commercial waste, runoff, leachate, heated effluent, or other manner, whether originating at a point or non-point source that is or may be introduced into any sewage treatment works or waters of the Commonwealth. Pollutants shall include paints, varnishes, solvents. 2, oil and other automotive fluids. 3, non-hazardous liquid and solid wastes and yard wastes. 4, refuse, rubbish, garbage, litter, or other discarded or abandoned objects. Accumulations and floatables. 5, pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers. 6, hazardous materials and wastes, sewage, fecal coliform, and pathogens. 7, dissolved and particulate metals. 8, animal wastes and residues. 9, rock, sand, salt, and soils. 10, construction wastes and residues. 11, noxious or offensive matter of any kind. Recharge is the replenishment of underground water reserves. Redevelopment is any construction, land alteration, or improvement of impervious surfaces resulting in total earth disturbances greater than 40,000 square feet, or activities that are part of a larger common plan of development disturbing greater than 40,000 square feet that does not meet the definitions of new development. See above. Related entities are any corporation in which the owner is an officer, director, or shareholder, limited partnership in which the owner is a limited partner or a general partnership in which the owner is a partner, a limited liability company in which the owner is a shareholder or director, a trust in which the owner is a trustee or beneficiary, or any other entity in which the owner has a beneficial interest. Retention is the holding of runoff in a basin without release except by means of evaporation, infiltration, or emergency bypass. Runoff is rainfall, snowmelt, or irrigation water flowing over the ground surface. Sediment is any mineral or organic soil material that is transported by wind or water from its origin to another location, the product of erosion processes. Sedimentation is a process of depositing material that has been suspended and transported in water. Site is the area extent of construction activities, including but not limited to the creation of new impervious cover and the improvement of existing impervious cover. Stormwater Authority administers, implements, and enforces the Southampton Stormwater Management and Erosion and Sedimentation Control Bylaw and associated regulations. See Section A above for more information on authority and Section E below for more information on administration. Stormwater management is the use of structural or non-structural practices that are designed to reduce stormwater runoff, pollutant loads, discharge volumes, and/or peak flow discharge rates. Stormwater management permit is a permit issued by the Southampton Planning Board after review of an application, including plans, stormwater management and erosion and sedimentation and sediment control, calculations and other supporting documents that is designed to protect the town from the adverse effects of uncontrolled and untreated stormwater runoff. Stormwater management plan is a plan to be submitted with the application for stormwater management permit, which shall include current and proposed site conditions, proposed improvements, proposed stormwater control measures, development schedules, and such other matters as may be required by the Southampton Planning Board. Stop work order is an order issued that requires all construction activity on a site to be stopped. And at this point, I need a break. Okay?
Thank you, Carl Keener. And now you can say, I know my ABCs.
Yes.
This isn't reading nursery rhymes to grandchildren, is it? I know you're on deck, Ed. I know you're on deck.
Okay.
You want to read?
Whatever you want me to, I will.
Why don't you come in then? Okay.
Then I'll take over the last part, whatever the last part is. Thank you, but you're welcome.
C, applicability. This bylaw shall apply throughout the town of Southampton prior to the issuance of any special permit, site plan approval, or other development permit for any proposed new development or redevelopment projects listed below. A stormwater management permit or a waiver of the requirements for a stormwater management permit must be approved by the Southampton Planning Board. No person shall, on or after the effective date of the bylaw, initiate any land clearing, land grading, earth moving, or construction activities without first complying with this bylaw. The following uses and activities shall be required to submit a complete stormwater management permit application, which shall include a stormwater management plan, including drainage reports, an erosion and sediment control plan, construction drawings, specifications, operation and maintenance plan, and as-built information in conformance with the requirements of this bylaw and associated regulations. Multifamily residential developments involving 4 or more units. B, any new commercial, industrial, and or institutional structures which at least 5,000 square feet of gross floor area, 10,000 square feet of impervious surface, or that require 10 or more parking spaces. C, redevelopment of additions to existing commercial, industrial, and or institutional uses that result in an additional impervious surface area or gross floor area of greater than 5,000 square feet, or that results in an increase of 10 or more parking spaces. D, construction of subdivisions and or construction activities of any kind disturbing greater than 40,000 square feet. E, development of or redevelopment involving multiple separate construction activities in discontinuous locations or on different schedules if the activities are part of a larger common plan of development that altogether disturbs greater than 40,000 square feet. D, exemptions. The following activities may be exempt from the requirements for submittal and approval of a stormwater management permit, but must meet the stormwater management and erosion and sediment control performance standards as described in the associated regulations. A, any agricultural activity that is consistent with an approved soil conservation plan prepared or approved by the National Resource Conservation Service. B, any logging that is consistent with a forest cutting plan approved under the Forest Cutting Practices Act by Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation. C, additions or modifications to existing single-family structures that do not disturb more than 40,000 square feet of land. D, developments other than a single-family dwelling where approval is not required that do not disturb more than 40,000 square feet of land, provided that they are not part of a larger common development plan. E, repairs to any stormwater treatment system deemed necessary by the Southampton Planning Board or Highway Department. F, any emergency activity that is immediately necessary for the protection of life, property, or the environment as determined excuse me, by the Southampton Planning Board or Highway Department. And G, activities that are exclusively limited to maintenance and improvement of existing sidewalks and roadways, including widening less than a single lane, adding shoulders, correcting substandard intersections with such elements as turning lanes, improving existing drainage systems, and repaving projects. Note that roadway widening or improvements that increase the amount of impervious area on the redevelopment site by greater than or equal to a single lane width are subject to the requirements of this bylaw. E, administration. 1, as a stormwater authority, the planning board will review all applications for a stormwater management permit under this bylaw. Upon receipt of a complete application package at a regularly scheduled meeting of the planning board, the board shall transmit 1 copy of the completed application package to the highway department for review and comment, and file 1 copy of the completed application package in the office of the town clerk. The date of the regularly scheduled meeting of the board at which the completed application package is accepted shall become the date of receipt and the start date for all deadlines for action by the board as set forth herein. Public hearing. The planning board shall, within 21 days of receipt of a complete application of a stormwater management permit, hold a public hearing on the matter to allow comment from abutters, other boards and commissions, and staff. The board shall take final action on the application within 65 days of the receipt of the complete application unless the time for action is extended by mutual written consent of the applicant and the planning board. Notice of the public hearing shall be given by publication in a newspaper of local circulation, by posting at the office of the town clerk, and by first-class mailings to abutters at least 7 days prior to the initial public hearing. The application of the erosion and sediment control plan shall be made available for inspection by the public during normal business hours at the office of the planning board and the office of the town clerk. The applicant shall submit any additional information in response to all reasonable requests of the Stormwater Authority and/or any duly authorized representatives of the Stormwater Authority. Project changes. The permittee or the agent must notify the Stormwater Authority in writing of any change or alteration of a land disturbance or construction activity authorized in a stormwater management permit before any change or alteration occurs. If the board determines that the change or alteration is significant, the board may require that an amended application be filed and a new public hearing held. If any change or alteration from the stormwater management permit occurs during any land disturbing activities, the board may require the installation of interim erosion and sedimentation control measures before approving the change or alteration as part of the formal application process. 2, the planning board may adopt and periodically amend rules and regulations relating to the procedures, standards, and administration of the stormwater management bylaw by majority vote of the planning board. After conducting a public hearing to receive comments on any proposed revisions, such hearing date shall be advertised in a newspaper of general local circulation at least 7 days prior to the hearing date. The planning board may waive strict compliance with any or all of the requirements of this bylaw for a project that will, in its judgment, generate minimal stormwater runoff and erosion and sedimentation, have minimal impact on the municipal stormwater system and nearby surface waters, and if such action is allowed by federal, state, and local statutes, bylaws, and regulations, is in the public interest and is consistent with the purposes of this bylaw. 4, the planning board's action rendered in writing may consist of any of the following as a result of an application for a stormwater management permit: approval, approval subject to conditions, disapproval. 5, the planning board may establish a permit review fee schedule based on the type and complexity of projects and may update this fee as needed to cover the costs of permit administration for stormwater management permits. The Stormwater Authority may require the applicant to pay reasonable costs to be incurred by the Stormwater Authority for the employment of outside consultants pursuant to Stormwater Authority regulations and is authorized by general laws, Chapter 44, Section 53G. This bylaw is intended to integrate with other parts of the town's land use bylaws and regulations and not replace any other such requirements. F, enforcement and penalties. 1, violations. Any construction activity that has commenced or is conducted contrary to this bylaw may be restrained by injunction or otherwise abated in a manner provided by law. 2, notice of violation. When the Southampton Planning Board determines that an activity is not being carried out in accordance with the requirements of this bylaw or associated regulations, it shall issue a written notice of violation to the owner of the property. The notice of violation shall contain: A, the name and address of the owner applicant; B, the address when available or the description of the building, structure, or land upon which the violation is occurring. C, a statement specifying the nature of the violation. D, a description of the remedial measures necessary to bring the site into compliance for this bylaw and the time schedule for the completion of such remedial action. E, a statement of the penalty or penalties that shall or may be assessed against the person to whom the notice of violation is directed. F, if the Highway Department, Stormwater Authority, or its authorized agent determines that abatement or remediation of adverse impacts is required, the order shall set forth a deadline by which such abatement or remediation must be completed. Said order shall further provide that should the violator or property owner fail to abate or perform remediation within the specified deadline, the town may, at its option, pursue a court order allowing the town to undertake such work, and expenses therefore shall be charged to the violator. If the Highway Department or Stormwater Authority takes action upon failure of the violator or owner to abate or remediate, notice shall be given to the violator and owner of the costs, including administrative costs incurred by the town. Said notice shall be sent within 30 days of completion of all measures necessary to abate the violation or to perform remediation. The violator or owner shall also be notified that they may, within 30 days of receipt of said notice, file an appeal in writing to the Board of Selectmen objecting to either the amount of or basis of the costs incurred. If the amount due is not received by the expiration of the time in which to file an appeal, or within 30 days following the decision by the Board of Selectmen, an appeal affirming or reducing the costs, or from a final decision of a court competent jurisdiction, the cost shall become a special assessment against the property owner and shall constitute a lien in the owner's property for the amount of said costs. Interest shall begin to accrue on an unpaid cost to the statutory rate provided by MGL Chapter 59, Section 57, after the 31st day at which the costs first become due. 3, stop work orders. Persons receiving a notice of violations will be required to halt all construction activities. The stop work order will be in effect until the Southampton Planning Board confirms that the development activity is in compliance and the violation has been satisfactorily addressed. Failure to address a notice of violation in a timely manner can result in civil or monetary penalties in accordance with the enforcement measures authorized by this bylaw. The Southampton Planning Board may utilize the services of a Massachusetts registered engineer to verify compliance at the applicant's expense. 4, non-criminal disposition. The town of Southampton may elect to utilize the non-criminal disposition procedure set forth in Southampton's town bylaws. The Southampton Planning Board shall be the enforcing entity. The penalty for the first violation shall be $100. The penalty for the second violation shall be $200. The penalty for the third and subsequent violation shall be $300. Each day or part thereof that such violation occurs or continues shall constitute a separate offense. 5, appeals. Unless otherwise stated herein, the decisions or orders of the Stormwater Authority shall be final. Further relief shall be appealed to a court of competent jurisdiction. The Stormwater Authority may require the applicant to post surety before the start of land disturbance or construction activity. The form of the surety shall be approved by Town Council and be in an amount deemed sufficient by the Stormwater Authority to ensure that the work will be completed in accordance with that permit. If the project is phased, the board may release part of the surety at each phase as each phase is completed in compliance with the permit, but the surety may not be fully released until the board has received the final report as required by Section 12 and the permittee is issued a certificate of completion. If the permittee defaults on any obligations imposed by the stormwater management permit, the Stormwater Authority may, G, surety. After providing written notifications to the permittee, inform the holder of the surety and the municipal treasurer if the treasurer is not holding the funds of the default, in which event the town shall be entitled to use the surety funds to bring the site into compliance with the stormwater management permit. H, final reports. Upon completion of the work and no later than 180 days after completion of construction, the permittee shall submit a report including certified as-built construction plans from a registered professional engineer, PE, certifying that the project has been completed in accordance with the conditions of the stormwater management permit and the plans approved thereunder. The as-built drawings must depict all on-site controls, both structural and non-structural, designed to manage the stormwater associated with a completed site, post-construction stormwater management. Any discrepancies with the approved permit plan shall be noted by the cover letter submitted with the report and as-built plans. I, certificate of completion. The board shall issue a letter certifying completion of a project following receipt and review of a final report and as-built plans following that all work allowed under the permit has been satisfactorily completed in conformance with this bylaw and any regulations enacted hereunder. J, severability. The provisions of this bylaw are hereby declared to be severable if any provision, paragraph, sentence, or clause of this bylaw or the application thereof to any person, establishment, or circumstances shall be held invalid. Such invalidity shall not affect the other provisions or applications of this bylaw. Budget and financial items. Article 13, transfer from free cash to the capital stabilization fund to see if the town will vote to transfer, appropriate $100,232 to the capital stabilization fund, said fund to be taken from free cash. Article 14, transfer from free cash to the operating stabilization fund to see if the town will vote to transfer, appropriate $85,913 to the operating stabilization fund, said sum to be taken from free cash. Article 15, transfer from free cash to the OPEB fund to see if the town will vote to transfer, appropriate $28,638 to the other post-employment benefits OPEB account, said sum to be taken from free cash. Article 16, citizen petition salary increase for the town clerk and treasurer collector. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds and or otherwise provide the sum of $6,720.20 in order to provide the elected town clerk with an increase in pay for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. Said funds to be added to the department budget under town clerk salary account 015-161.113. And to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate transfer from available funds and otherwise provide the sum of $7,349.21 in order to provide the elected town treasurer collector with an increase in pay for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. Said funds to be added to the departmental budget under treasurer collector salary account 015-145.113. Article 17, annual operating budget for fiscal 2022, base budget non-override. To see if the town will vote to fix salaries of all elected officials for the fiscal year 2022 for the period for July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. And further to raise and appropriate $18,289,262 monies as identified in the town's annual operating budget from taxation, $17,500 from WPAT loan and $100,000 from ambulance fees as attached for fiscal year 22. Attachment fiscal year 22 budget labeled A. Article 18, supplemental operating budget, general override, article override budget. To see if the town shall raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds an additional $718,466.51 in real estate and personal property taxes to supplement the appropriation under Article 17 for the operating budget for the purposes of funding the following departments and accounts in the operating budget for the town. Norris Elementary School Department, Police Department, Fire EMS Department, Highway Department, Public Library, Council on Aging, Tree Warden, Select Board, Administration, Accounting Department, Assessors Department, Treasurer Collector Department, Legal Department, Town Clerk Election and Registration Department, Telephone, Town Hall Building, IT expenses, equipment, internet service, and web maintenance, postage, annual audit, photocopier lease and open space committee for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021, provided, however, that the vote taken hereunder shall be expressly contingent upon approval by the voters of a Proposition 2.5 so-called override question, allowing the town to raise the additional amount appropriated hereunder outside the limits imposed by said Proposition 2.5, all in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 59, Section 21C, G. Attachment Fiscal Year 22 Budget, labeled B. Article 19, Transfer Station Enterprise Fiscal 2022 Budget, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds $211,530 to operate the transfer station enterprise according to the following budget. Wages, $37,955. Operating expenses, $151,412. Environmental compliance, $4,000. Indirect costs, $18,163. Total, $211,530. And that $198,250 be raised from transfer station enterprise revenues, $13,280 to be taken from retained earnings, and $18,163 to be appropriated in general fund indirect costs. Article 20, Water Enterprise Fiscal 2022 Budget, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds $868,800 to operate the water enterprise according to the following budget. Wages, $219,853. Operating expenses, $160,983. Capital outlay, $100,000. Indirect cost, $93,964. Debt services, $294,000. Total, $868,800. And that $832,936 be raised from water enterprise revenues, $35,864 from retained earnings, and $93,964 appropriated in general fund indirect costs. Article 21, funding for water department replacement box truck, to see if the town will vote to appropriate transfer $140,000 to fund the purchase of a replacement box truck, said sum to be taken from the water department retained earnings account. Article 22, funding for water department asset planning grant, to see if the town will vote to appropriate transfer $22,000 to fund the required local match for the water department asset planning grant, said sum to be taken from the water department retained earnings. Article 23, transfer from ambulance receipts to the ambulance debt account, fiscal year 21. See if the town will vote to transfer appropriate $68,065 from ambulance receipts reserved for appropriation to the debt ambulance account for the fiscal year 21 debt payments on the newest ambulance. Article 24, funding for highway plow dump truck, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $261,000 to purchase a new single axle dump truck with plow and sander body for the highway department, to determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise. Article 25, funding for acquisition of the right-of-way for Greenway Bike Pedestrian Trail, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $270,000 to acquire the right-of-way for the Greenway Rail Trail Bike and Pedestrian Path, and or to pay design costs related thereto, to determine whether this appropriation shall be raised by borrowing or otherwise. Article 26, transfer for new voting machines for town clerk. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $9,700 from the capital stabilization fund to the town clerk capital budget to fund replacement of the voting machines for the town clerk. Article 27, transfer for E-Code 360 bylaw software program for town clerk. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $6,995 from free cash to the town clerk capital budget to fund the purchase of the E-Code 360 software program for the town clerk. Article 28, transfer for boiler and hot water tank replacement at Edwards Library. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $18,500 from free cash to the Edwards Library capital budget to fund the purchase and installation of a replacement boiler and hot water tank for the Edwards Public Library. Article 29, transfer for 2 boiler, furnace, and with AC replacement at the police station. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $13,000 from the capital stabilization fund to the police capital budget to fund the purchase and installation of 2 new replacement boiler furnaces with AC for the police station. Article 30, transfer for highway 1-ton truck with plow and drop-in sander replacement. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $44,400 from the capital stabilization fund to the highway capital budget to fund the purchase of 1 new replacement 1-ton truck with plow and drop-in sander for the highway department. Article 31, transfer for Center Street Cemetery water line replacement. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $9,700 from the capital stabilization fund to the cemetery capital budget to fund the installation of new replacement water lines in the center cemetery. Article 32, transfer for Norris School, replace remaining broken sidewalk portions. To see if the town will vote to transfer $9,000 from the capital stabilization fund to the Norris School capital budget to fund replacement of the remaining broken sidewalk portions at the Norris School. Article 33, transfer from Norris School, replace carpeting in more than 10 rooms. To see if the town will vote to transfer $37,475 from the capital stabilization fund to the Norris School capital budget to fund replacement of carpeting in more than 10 rooms at the Norris School. Article 34, transfer for Norris School for repair of masonry issues, major exterior and minor interior. To see if the town will vote to transfer a total of $22,750 from the capital stabilization fund to fund the repair of masonry issues on the exterior of the building, subtotal $10,000, and also masonry issues on the interior of the building, subtotal $12,750 at the Norris School. Article 35, transfer for Norris School for replacement of interior classroom doors and door closers. To see if the town will vote to transfer $5,910 from the capital stabilization fund to the Norris School capital budget to fund the replacement of some classroom doors and door closers at the Norris School. Article 36, transfer for Norris School for replacement of vertical blinds. To see if the town will vote to transfer $14,470 from free cash to the Norris School capital budget to fund the replacement of vertical blinds in the cafeteria and counseling rooms at Norris School.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
I'm back. Professional readers, I'd like to thank Carl Keener, Deputy Moderator, and Ed Gibson, Town Administrator. Teamwork. We continue. Article 37, funding for MS4 stormwater management permit expenses. To see if the town will vote to transfer $28,875 from free cash to the Highway Department MS4 stormwater management permit account to fund the mandated permit requirements for state federal compliance in fiscal 22. revolving funds. Article 38, revolving fund spending limits. To see if the town will vote to set the revolving fund fiscal 2022 spending limits for such revolving funds as follows. There are 3 columns. I'll read the first one, second one, third one, and then go back to the first column for the next group. The columns are program or purpose. Second one is use of fund. Third one is fiscal 22 spending limit. Conservation, operating expenses, administrative expenses, $10,000. Conservation forestry, oversight and management of the conservation areas, including forestry land, $10,000. Council and Aging van, payment for operation of COA van, $31,000. Dog licensing and control, expenses related to administration of licenses and dog control, $8,000. Electrical inspections, payment for electrical inspection services, $20,000. Fire department, brush services, fire chief to purchase brush firefighting equipment, $5,000. Park Commission, operating expenses, administrative expenses, $10,000. Planning Board, administrative expenses, $10,000. Planning Board, consultant costs, $15,000. Plumbing inspections, payment for plumbing inspection services, $20,000. Tax title related costs, $10,000. Weights and measures fees, $3,000. Zoning Board of Appeals, ZBA expenditures, $5,000. Community preservation projects, Article 39, report of the Community Preservation Committee to see if the town will vote to hear and act pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44B, on a report of the Community Preservation Committee for the fiscal year 2022 community preservation budget, and to appropriate or reserve from the Community Preservation Fund the following sums of money as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee for committee administrative expenses, community preservation projects, and other necessary and proper expenses in the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021, with each item to be considered as a separate appropriation. Administrative expenses, $7,500. Reserves from fiscal 22, estimated revenues for historic resource reserve, $33,000. From fiscal 22, estimated revenues for community housing reserve, $33,000. From fiscal 22, estimated revenues for Pomeroy Meadow Road land, $55,150. Pomeroy Meadow land purchase only a memo item and will fulfill the 10% requirement for open space reserve. Article 40, funding for Open Space Committee for Educational Barns Aquifer Pamphlet Program. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $3,500 from community preservation funds to the Open Space to support their educational program, Barns Aquifer Pamphlet Project. Said funds to be transferred from community preservation surcharges open space account. Article 41, funding for Conservation Commission from required 50% match for Mass Trails Grant Phase 2. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $50,000 from community preservation funds to the Conservation Commission for the required $50,000 town match for a Mass Trails grants for Phase 2 for continued improvement of the areas of the Manhattan Meadow Sanctuary Trail System. Said funds to be transferred from community preservation surcharges undesignated account. This transfer is contingent upon the receiving of the Mass Trails grant. And the last one. Article 42, funding for Edwards Public Library to continue placing historic resource materials on their website. To see if the town will vote to transfer the sum of $6,240 to the Edwards Public Library to continue placing historical resource materials on the website, http://historicalresources.southampton.org, or any available or also available through the library's website. Said funds would be transferred from community preservation surcharges historical preservation account. Those are the articles. The motions will be much shorter. We will have social distancing. Masks are recommended, voluntary, and certainly those not vaccinated, we would have you consider wearing a mask. We'll pretty much have the same format as we did at our successful annual town meeting last year and the October fall special town meeting. Everything that we can do for your safety and comfort has been done. All the department heads maintained, moderated by our town administrator, Ed Gibson, have worked hard. We've got an amazing team to make you welcome. And once that gavel goes down, although I don't have a gavel, I knock the side of the podium, you are transformed from being a Southampton resident to being part of the legislative body. And we look forward to you and your votes. Cheers.